Hello, welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I am Aidan,
And I am Jack.
and we are getting you ready for the Cannons Week 2 matchup against the Maryland Whipsnakes, coming up this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. The Cannons are, to what is at least my recollection, the first game to be flexed out. The 5 o'clock game was originally broadcast on ESPN2. That will now be the Chaos and the Atlas. So the Cannons Whipsnakes will be 7:30 just on ESPN Plus. Um, so hopefully that will give both teams a bit of a chip on their shoulder to play for that they got pushed out. Um, I'm sure the Whips will be grateful, give them another couple hours of rest. But uh, yeah, that's a tough look for the
That
Cannons
was
week
a
after
yeah, it,
week after
just
getting
giving me vibes of, when the Pats got flexed off Monday Night Football in the fall, first team
yeah.
ever to literally not even just be flexed out of Sunday night. Oh, now you play Saturday afternoon. No, you got from Monday night to Sunday afternoon, and now Cannons getting flexed
Yeah,
out. What's going on? We just won Champ Series, and we had one bad week.
I know. So
And
they
they're already
gotta
taking us off linear TV.
hopefully they take out this frustration on the Whipsnakes defense and goalkeeping. Um, we're lucky enough to be joined by three representatives of the Snake Pit, the Whipsnakes supporter group. We'll be switching over to them in a minute, just to talk about, much like we did last week with the Stampede, the reactions to week one, obviously not what either of us wanted, and then what we think will happen in week two, the predictions, our fears, hopes. Um, yeah, it was a great conversation with three. Obviously, Maryland's such a hotbed of lacrosse. Three guys who follow the sport closely, know a lot about it. Um, Jack, anything else we need to tell the good people before we flip it over to that?
No, I don't think so. Let's just get into it.
All right, here we go with Max, Matt, and Micah of the Snake Pit. All right, big thank you to Max, Matt, and Micah, the three M's, leaders of the Snake Pit, the Whip Snakes supporter group, for coming on and talking about the upcoming game this weekend against the Cannons. Guys, thank you all for hopping on this evening.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
yeah. So I think we got to start with the unfortunate results that both of our teams faced at the hands of the New York Atlas. Obviously, that game did not go how we hoped or wanted it to go. What takeaways did you guys have from your defeat that you are looking to see changed this week against the Cannons, or what do you think you can learn from that game?
Yeah, I'll go on here. So, um, obviously not the greatest start. 5 minutes in, down,
Yeah,
6-0. But look at the rest of the game. We ended up, outscoring them 13-11. So I think there's some stuff to build on. Second half, guys definitely started to come on. Some of those young
Yeah,
guys started to kind of figure it out. So took a little bit, but you could feel it we had the watch party going. People started to get a little bit more into it the second half. Channy stepped up, hit a couple two bombs for us. So I think that's the big thing, right? Is you can't throw away the season off the first 5 minutes. Definitely surprised that whoever loses the game, this week is going to be going 0-2. But
yeah,
I
Mm.
think it's in a good spot to grow and can't overreact to week one.
yeah,
yeah, I
absolutely.
think, I think from an optimistic, perspective, seeing that there's 3 2-pointers in the second half, just like
Mm,
looking at Shannon Sharp, he gets so much power on the shot for how old he is. Like Shannon Sharp, Heacock's right there with him. He didn't get a 2-pointer, but any game, any day now he will. And then Garrett Ledman, the rookie,
mm.
getting a two bomb. That's like you look at that and moving forward, you're like, okay, the Whip Snakes, they might they're susceptible to a big early lead, something like that. But I think they're in most games this year, no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. Like they certainly have the offensive firepower. We've seen that the last couple of years. Um, I wanted to ask, well, about two positions that I think had previously been really big strengths that didn't turn out to be that way. Is first, I wanted to ask about La Sala at the faceoff versus Nardella, if that surprised you, if you hope or think you'll see Nardella this week or coming forward. And then in goal, obviously with Bernlohr getting pulled pretty early. So let's maybe start with the Fogo. What are your thoughts? Obviously LaSalle did not start off great, but kind of rallied after that. What are your thoughts about the face-off situation for the Whips? Because you guys are in a pretty unique position, having two really good starting caliber Fogos.
Can we have one, by the way, please?
Yeah, if you'd like to trade one of them either before the game or after, we're fine with that.
Yeah, do you guys think you're going to dress a Fogo this week? Is Tucci going to play? Or
I think
I
we
think
have
he
to.
has to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
after getting annihilated by Baptiste, and obviously Baptiste would probably do that to anyone, but
Yeah, I was gonna say that might not be the right litmus test for at least us. Like,
Mm.
there was some struggle, but it's also, you just played Baptiste. So.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of agree with PD getting the start, like putting Nardella in his first field game, and like that might he played the whole NLL season, but like putting him back on the field is a different beast where you got that get up and get after it, especially against Baptiste, like dual threat. He can score, as he showed, unfortunately.
yeah.
yeah, I mean, Nardella had the long season too. They made it to the championship games, so that was kind of the message from Coach Staggs coming out of camp is a little banged up. So he's historically done well against Baptiste. So I'm guessing game 2 and definitely in a playoff matchup, that's what you'd see. But it's nice having two of those guys to give each other a little bit of run. And Zala definitely had some awesome games last year. So again, I don't expect week 1. I think they'll both stay on the roster throughout the season.
Yeah, I think so too. I had kind of talked myself into one of them getting traded just because dressing both of you never dress both of them in the same game, but Jack did kind of talk me out of that, and that having the two is such an advantage if one of them gets hurt or just has a rough week. So congrats guys, but again, please give us one. Either one doesn't matter.
We'll take whatever you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then the other position is goalie, which Bernlohr's had some up and down seasons. Obviously, last year he broke his collarbone. Did not start the game sharp, to put it mildly. And I don't know. Did you have any concerns about him personally or about goaltending overall after that game, or do you just kind of shake it off as?
So I don't have concerns with him, personally as the fellow goalie and former goalie coach in the group. Like, there's some games you're just off. I think the biggest struggle is going to be that it's only a 10-game season and you're only playing once a week. You look at, he was goalie of the year in 2022, 9-1, like very strong season. And I think he was playing at the same level last year and then kind of got that freak, injury coming across the crease and missed, half the games. The big downside is, he came back for playoffs. So they took Krebs out and he went in, kind of cold, which again, goalie of the year, he's earned that spot, but, really struggled in the playoff game last year. And then I think it was one of those things, if you would have saved those first two, like then I think he's locked in, and maybe tears it up. But, let the first couple in on close ones off the foot and the stick. And, all of a sudden then, I think it just kind of mental. So I think the two big challenges are going to be getting the reps. He really just needs those live game reps and make a couple saves to get out of that funk. And then it's probably more for the coaching staff for Stags is, Krebs played well coming in last year. He had went up a couple at the beginning of the third, but overall I thought played pretty well coming in off the bench in this last game. So he's on that, it's kind of hard to put him back on the bench. So where's that balance where, where do you get Krebs around? Would also try to get Bernlohr out of that funk. So I think that's going to be the same thing. And if they start jumping back and forth, I think that might be the struggle. But this is kind of where you guys were last year. Is that Kerr been split a little bit to start out, and then Kerr stepped up and kind of exploded. So if that's what we get out of Krebs, I don't think it's a bad spot to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think it's Bernlohr starting this week, or do you think?
I don't know. Max is shaking his head. I think it's going to be Krebs. I think they're going to stick with him, but I think either week 3 or 4, Bernlohr's going to get back in. But I'll kick it over to Max and Mike if they think different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you have one super confident goalie right now. I think the way that you get one of them to be more than marginally confident in their game is to let let Burnlore at least get the start this week. And if that doesn't work, then yeah, they'd have to, if they put Krebs in for game 2, they got to give him the start moving forward for sure. I think we're on the same page there. But
Yeah.
for this game 2, I think probably give Burnlore a chance.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's one of those momentum things in that game too. Like, you get down a lot early, your goalie doesn't have a save. Let's switch something up, and then like after that first quarter, moving into the second, like teams start settling in them around them. So I don't think it's really a knock on Burnlord to pull Krebs. I mean, see it in other sports too. Like, just shake it up for a second and see what's
Yeah,
different.
I think Matt put it perfectly. Like, these are they're career goalies. They've been in this position before and
Yeah.
continue to grow their career into something very successful. So I don't think it's in completely lose your courage territory for Burnlore. So I think they got to give him the shot.
Yeah. Well, hope to see him out there, and hopefully he does the exact same thing against the Cannons this weekend.
Except we'll start with Block 06 off the bat. Get a
Yeah.
little momentum going.
So maybe let's now turn to the Cannons. That upcoming matchup. What about
Actually, I had a question that I
sure.
want to ask before we go to the Cannons. Just going to the offensive side of the ball. Two-parter. What did you guys think of when you first saw that Will Manny was released? And then now that TJ Malone came in and put up 3 goals and 3 assists, how are you feeling about him?
I'm loving Malone. I think everyone kind of hyped him up as a steal of the draft, and I think that first game, like playing next to Rambo, playing next to Zed, like, and still putting up those numbers is really impressive. With Will Manny though, I feel like maybe one of those spot shooters like him could have helped us out in the beginning of that game, like on those transitions and like having that just step and shoot mentality that he has. So I think they're different players for sure, but you know, I'll take either one. Definitely shocked to see him get released though.
Yeah, I did not see
Yeah,
that.
I wasn't I probably wasn't as shocked that he didn't end up in the rotation, but definitely not to get the initial 25 man. With Smith maybe out for the year and Dordovic hurt too. Like,
Right.
I thought they might try running one of those guys through the midfield, or Zed played a little midi at the end of last season, so I thought they might keep him there and play around with the lineups. But they really liked Malone, and he showed why in that first game. So
Yeah. So I guess you obviously you can the result wasn't what you wanted, but you certainly can't question his strategy of putting Malone in there after that performance at his debut. Second only to Schellenberger of the weekend for
Right.
the rookies, at least in the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now let's flip to the Cannons' point of view, or maybe the Whipsnakes' view of the Cannons. What about this upcoming game has you worried when facing the Cannons? Maybe it was a different answer now versus before week 1. And what do you think the Whipsnakes will do really well against them?
So I think we'll start with the second half to get Wells' side. I think there'll definitely be some more face-off control, whether it's Sasella or Nardella coming in. I think that's just going to help the offense out. Right, that was part of it. Is when you don't see the ball for more than 2 minutes in the first quarter, it's hard to get any rhythm. So I think their offense will definitely start to come along. Probably a little bit more comfort. These two teams scrimmaged each other, in camp. It's a little bit of familiarity there. Pat Cav and Aidan didn't play, so you got a couple new rookies coming in, but some familiarity there. So I think it'll settle down a little bit. My biggest fear, or the moment I don't want to see, is a former Whip hitting that game-winning goal, whether it's Kirst or Drenner or one of your guys coming through, or a Bryce Young steal to seal it. That would be the heartbreaker or the dagger as a Whips fan, seeing one of those guys make a play on the Boston side. But
Yeah. I wonder because the Whips D is when they were winning their championships the first 2 years of the league was so like impregnable, it felt, with Young, Dunn, and Muller or Mullen. Yeah, Muller.
Muller, yeah.
I was thinking that or Mullins, but And of course Earhart. I keep forgetting Earhart because I'm just thinking of the close D, but Earhart was obviously like such a huge part of that. Like, did the Atlas did the same thing to the Cannons, but does the changeover at the defensive end of the field give you guys any pause? Because as a Cannons fan, I'm hoping that some of that newness will translate into some more success for their offensive personnel this time around. That Pat Cav might click a little bit more and get more than that one assist he got in week 1.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it worries me more in transition. Losing Earhart, of course, Bryce Young as well. And then in that Bryce Young trade, we get Matt Reese, but he's out injured. So, you got Zupik and Squires as your LSM there. Like, they're not bad players at all, but they're rookies. And in Bryce Young, you insert Zapatello, which again isn't bad, great player, but that communication not being there yet. And then from the short stick D midi, like losing Ty Warner as well. Like, he's good on D, he can transition really well.
Yeah.
And just with the shooters you guys have on the Cannons, like Holman on that wing is gonna be a problem this week, I think. Coming down in transition against our short stick D middies and LSMs.
Yeah, I'm hoping you're right with that. The transition is a good point on both ends of the field. That when the Cannons are pushing it, that communication is maybe not as locked in as it was in past years. And then losing Warner and Earhart going from D to O is huge as well because both of those guys are pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, I would probably say that with Zapatello, I'm cautiously optimistic on like Micah was saying, he's a young guy, not knowing the offense a whole lot, but I will say I was at championship weekend and seeing Zapatello, he was guarding Pat Cavanaugh the whole time, and obviously they had a tough game, but he for the most part kept Pat at bay, so that'll be interesting to see how that, assuming as we all do, that Pat Cavanaugh will emerge into this league as mid-level, above mid-level player.
Yeah,
how that translates, that's the real point of interest here, not concern, interest.
yeah. He might be running out of the box though, Pat Cav, because I know his older brother would be playing down there with Knowlton and Holman, so you might not be able to get Zapatello on him.
Yeah, I think you're probably, my guess is going to be Zapatello might end up on Holman just with the way the rotation goes, with Mueller in the middle, and then Dunn's probably going to be the matchup for Asher, just size wise.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, kind of as Mike and Max both pointed out, like one-on-one matchups, I feel, pretty good about. But it's going to be interesting to see. I think, whether it's Asher kind of isoing and banging down low, or maybe inverting Pat Cav against, the LSM or get a shorty behind. And what worries me is that feed over top to Holman, like setting up for the 2-bomb. He loves to get that time and room shot from up top. So we can cut down the 2, and we kind of took the new Boom Squad moniker for week 1. So if we can keep you guys from getting that back in week 2, that'll be the hope.
Yeah, I guess you guys needed them because you had to come back from such a big deficit. But the number of 2-pointers that the Whips shot, I mean, it was just Chanichuk, but Ledman also had one. Yep. Really surprised me.
Well, what I was talking about a little bit earlier is like those guys are so big too that Chanichuk, both of his 2-point shots, he shot off of a half step lead up. I mean, he's getting that ball off in 2 seconds. It completely changes how you play the defense against him. Yeah,
absolutely. Because Chanichuk's not very big, right? Like he's not more than 6'1" or 6'2". I feel like he doesn't shoot the ball particularly hard, like relative to Rabel, but he just finds that power or deception or both, that he's been doing that for a long time. Hopefully he does not do it again this week. But I certainly respect the craft. Do you guys have any questions for us about like a Cannons fan's perspective of Whips? I know I've been talking to you about a lot of them over the past 20-30 minutes.
Yeah, just general open question. Like, what do you guys think about the roster turnover and the direction that the Whips are going in, and how it's going to play out the rest of the season?
I am cautiously optimistic that the Whips mini dynasty is over. Winning the first two championships and then going to the championship game in year three. I think, not to say that like Rambo or Zed or any of them are past their prime, but it is a very different team than was winning in 2019 and 2020. And this is just maybe it's just me, but I feel like I can never remember any of the Whips midfielders. Like I know they had Drenner and they had Henningberg for a little bit in year one.
Connor Kelly.
Yeah, Connor Kelly. I feel like I'm thinking of Mike Chanachuk and no one else. I guess now Garrett Ledman, but the like I just whenever I think of the Whips, I only think of that attack trio.
Who's the midi that you just hired as an assistant coach now?
Drew Snyder.
Snyder,
Drew
yep.
Snyder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Snyder.
Yeah, the expansion drafts took away our midfield 2 years in a row. So.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah.
But
So that doesn't necessarily say anything about the Whips because it's been that way for a few years where I'm just thinking of Chanachuk and no one else. And then Brad Smith, who has missed at least 2 full seasons now with injuries.
Stay healthy.
Yeah, he had knee surgery ended last year, so I think it's kind of 50-50 on whether he'll be back at all this season. So we'll be optimistic on it, but
yeah. So I think that's definitely an area where I feel confident for the Cannons is that I think they can match up with your midfield a little bit better, maybe than the Atlas. Like Costabile and Aiken. Aiken was incredible last weekend. And the Cannons, I do have a lot of confidence in their short sticks, and I think we've seen the like Rambo and Zed unit together long enough now that I think coaches have a good idea of how to defend them. So I'm cautiously optimistic that they'll hold them to pretty low percentage shooting, but I am now worried that won't matter because they'll have the ball 70 to 80% of the time, which was the problem with the Cannons the first 2 years they were in the PLL. Was they were efficient when they had the ball, they just never had it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see these defensive matchups from the Cannons onto the Whips. Like, I may or may not think that the Cannons have the best pole room in the PLL. I mean, I think you look at on paper, like there are names on that list and real compete from close D to LSM. I'd assume we probably see Zed and Apple matched up, big bodies kind of clashing. Does Bryce Young get the Rambo matchup being familiar? I guess we'll see, but I think that's going to be fun to watch. And then like that midfield shooting, like if Ledman and Chanachuk can kind of stretch the field, can that Cannons defense react to the inside game of Zed and Rambo? Having that 2-point threat is something I'd watch as well.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fascinating matchups, and I think for me, at least what it felt like, and against the Atlas was that the communication wasn't there. There were a lot of sloppy mistakes of like not sliding correctly or guys missing assignments and being left open. I think we saw that a number of times, and you probably can't fix all that in a week, but I think if the Cannons clean that up, I have enough confidence in them one-on-one that I think it will be a good defensive game. I mean, I really miss Jack Kilty. I think that would have
I think that's
fixed a lot, but it would have made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I'm also curious about the face-off. Just obviously, Baptiste is going to win the majority of them regardless. But the fact that the Cannons didn't even dress a Fogo just showed that much more that they were going to go with the prevent strategy. And so Atlas was able to just put 2 O-mids on the wing because they knew that they were going to get the ball and just get right into their offensive set. So I wonder if we do dress Tucci this week, not only do we hopefully win a few more faceoffs than we did last week, but maybe that forces the Whips to play the faceoff a little more normally. And so does that hurt the transition game and you're not able to get into your offense as much, and maybe the prevent strategy then works a little bit better this week than it did last week? I don't know. That's just me being super hopeful, but I think that'll be sort of interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think that's the big hope for me as well, is that you just have to respect that Tucci might win it, and so you have to put at least one defensive guy out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can't go two offensive middies on the wings and go straight
No,
to your
not with
set.
Well, I mean, I
with
think with the wing play you guys have off the draw too, with Goodrich and Raw, like that's
Mhm.
you know, if you dress Tucci, he might not be better than PD or Nardella, whoever plays, but that wing play gives you guys a big advantage that would prevent us from just throwing two out like Atlas did. We don't have a
Right.
Yeah, if you can just hold it for really only 2 or 3 seconds until those guys can crash in, because I know the PLO moved the wings in. I forget how much, but you really don't need a lot of time to hold a guy there, even if you lose the clamp.
Mhm.
Hopefully we see some of that. I'm sure Tucci's been working his tail off to figure out how to at least make it a tie up, if not win some outright. But it's gonna be
Yeah,
a fun one. Should we maybe
the other
wrap
question,
some?
yeah, one other quick question for you guys.
Yeah.
Like, not directly for this game, but just kind of moving forward in the season. What do you think about the conference alignment, and do you think that it's going to help? You guys this week, and then you're back up in Baltimore, week 9. So you think it's going to help,
Mhm.
build up the rivalries and create a little, extra fandom?
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
Yeah, I think anything that ensures more Boston Philly games after that Champ Series final is a good thing. I certainly don't like the New York Atlas very much after this week. And then I've just kind of hated the Whips since year one because they were the best team, and I wasn't a fan of them. So I think it's a good thing. It does seem like the East was the stronger conference, but that shouldn't matter too much for playoffs, because I believe it's after the first seed in the East and West. It's just the next
Yeah,
best,
it's just yeah,
right.
which I would expect to include 2, if not 3, from the East. I think. Well, it's tough to make predictions after week 1, but I think the Alice will definitely be there. The Archers will definitely be there, and then the Cannons, Whips, and Water Dogs will certainly all be in the running.
yeah.
But I
I
don't
think
propose-
it's also just great from a general fan perspective. Obviously, what we're doing here is trying to grow the sport and grow the league, and so having the city affiliations is a huge part of helping relate to other sports fans. People don't really know travel sports. What they're used to is Boston teams and Maryland teams. So that is a huge plus for the league this year. And just like that, conferences, East West is also a very common thing in sports. So it just helps us grow the game more, because we can say, oh, yeah, these are the Whips. They're in the Eastern Conference. We play them twice a year. They're one of our rivals. Like, that's something that just makes sense to the casual sports fan. And I think makes the entry point easier for us to draw in sports fans to be PLL fans.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Not having to be like, well, it's all, it's explaining that roundabout of like
Yeah.
it's all travel and
Yeah.
teams, and now having that city connection. Like, I'm sure in cities like Boston, New York, where sports are huge, like,
Mhm.
oh, Boston Cannons. If someone hasn't heard of them, they're gonna be like, Boston Cannons. I'm a huge Boston fan. Like, how, you know, just get that involvement. And then, like you said, with the conferences, it just makes sense. It's what
Yeah.
pretty much sports are doing.
Exactly.
We just gotta get enough westward expansion that Carolina doesn't have to be in the Western Conference.
Right.
Right.
Let's give Texas, or I mean, Minnesota, they've been going there for a while. Maybe they get a team a couple
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see.
All right. I think maybe we should just wrap it up with a score prediction, or maybe some very specific prediction about this upcoming game. I assume we're all going to pick our teams to win, but I don't know. After quite a few goals, both of our teams allowed in week 1, you think it will both be in the upper to mid teens again, or do you think it'll be a lower scoring game this time around?
So I'm going settle down. I got my Whips right here, 11-9.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm thinking low, not too low, 14-12 Snakes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking something along that, and Probably go 14-12, 14-13 whips way. But Holman's definitely gonna have at least 4 or 5 for sure.
I hope you're right. I think I don't know. Yeah, I'm thinking a lower scoring game because I do think the Cannons will be able to hold the Whips offense in check, and I don't think they'll have the ball necessarily enough to put like 14, 15 in. So I'll say like 12, 11 Cannons.
And I'm sort of riding that lower scoring train. I'm feeling like an 11-9 Cannons win, maybe something along those lines.
Yeah.
You got the right score on team.
Yeah, and I'll also say each team definitely gets a 2.
Yes.
I guess
Yep,
I think that's a safe
definitely.
bet.
Yeah, with whether it's God, I hope Cade does it. Cade Van Rapport does it again after he did like 4 or 5 straight games last year. That was so fun. All right, thank you guys for coming on. I guess we'll talk to you again week 9, when the season will look very different. So best of luck to you in all the games except this one and that one. And have fun at your watch party. Actually, before we go, just shout out all your social handles so that all the Cannons fans who are listening to this can go talk trash in the comments.
Yeah, the Snake Pit SG, kept it simple. X, Instagram. You can look up the Snake Pit on Facebook. We got a little group there going too. So any of those, and then we'll tag you guys too. So anybody watching this, come over. We'll put out a couple posts. Instagram seems to be the best bet, but we're active on all 3 of those. So.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have some Instagram back and forth over the course of the game. I know we did with the Atlas or the Stampede rather, last week. Probably not another brawl, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys very much for hopping on. And we will see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
See you guys.
Appreciate it.
And thanks again to the 3 M's of the Maryland Whipsnakes Snake Pit supporter group. Another great conversation.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm really looking forward to Saturday's game. Really hoping that we don't go 0-2. I forget which one of them said that, but the fact that the loser of this game is going to start off 0-2 kind of threw me for a loop. I'm like, Whipsnakes and Cannons going 0-2, like,
I know.
yeah, especially the Whipsnakes. Crazy because of how good they always were. I know the Cannons, even last year, having such a good year, started off 0-2. So I guess it's not unfathomable for the Cannons to be 0-2, but I certainly wouldn't want them to go 0-2.
No.
That would not be fun. I was hoping that we would ride the train of how most of last year went and how the Champ Series went. So let's hope for a little 1-1 action for the Cannons.
Or, I believe it is possible for a tie in the PLL. I believe they play 1 overtime period, and if no one scored, that game doesn't a tie.
Is that true?
I think so. I'll have to double check the PLL overtime rules, but I mean, it's never going to happen. So it is kind of moot. But I think much like the NFL, it's 1 overtime period, and if it's tied after that, it's over. I'll just stall here while Jack can look it up on the PLO website.
That is incorrect.
Okay.
They play 1 12-minute overtime period with no timeouts. First team to score wins. If somehow they go 12 minutes without a goal, they will play 4-minute overtimes until the winner is decided.
All right. So thank you for correcting me live on, not live on air, but on air there. It is good to know that someone will be going 0-2 and someone will be going 1-1. It is not possible for them to both go 0-1. Yeah, we'll see. I say I am a little bit more nervous about this than I was going into week 1. The face-off difficulties, not just with not winning them, but with how easily the Atlas got offense out of it, has made me a little concerned. We'll go back to the 2021 and 22 Cannons where they just never had the ball and didn't give up a ton of goals, but just weren't able to score enough the few opportunities they did have it. Not hitting the panic button yet. It's only week 1, well, week 2 kind of now, but I'm definitely looking for a better performance this time around than they gave. Although, I mean, they were neck and neck up until the fourth quarter with the Atlas. So we'll see. They're going out and playing the game. Again, that is 7:30 now on ESPN Plus. It did get flexed out. The Chaos and Atlas will be playing at 5 o'clock on ESPN2 instead. If you don't have ESPN Plus or you want to hang out with some other diehard Cannons fans, come into our watch party. We'll be having another one at West End Johnny's. Saturday night in Boston, it'll be popping. The Celtics finals start the night you are hearing this, Thursday the 6th. So, it'll be a great atmosphere all around in the city that weekend. I'm sure they'll be celebrating a great Game 1 victory. And this is coming out before that game is being played, so I can't look like too much of an idiot.
Vibes are going to be high in Boston.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that's it. Come out to West End Johnny's if you're in the Boston area. Support the Cannons on ESPN Plus if you are not. Thank you all very much for listening. Whipsnakes fans, go follow the Snake Pit if you somehow found us instead of them first. And I think with that, we will see you in the next episode next Monday.
See you guys.
All right, go Cannons.
Boom.